Okay, this is Bill Markley. It's September 10th, 2013, and I'm talking with Mr. Art Clawson. Or Clawson, I'm sorry. Clawson is the correct pronunciation, right?
That's right.
Okay, and Mr. Clawson, what was your birth date and birthplace?
I was born July 31st, 1939, in St. Mary's, Ohio.
Okay, and do you know the names of your parents, your biological parents?
Yes, my father's name was Elvin Sylvester, and my mother's name was Edna Jeanette
Okay,
Milligan Clawson.
okay. Did you have any siblings?
I did, as a matter of fact, I was the middle of seven.
Okay,
Uh, and of those who went to the children's home, there was myself and three siblings went to the children's home at the same time.
what years were you in the home?
I arrived, well, we all arrived approximately October of 1943. Don't hold me to that, but that seems to be about right.
Okay,
Then I was sent to a farm out north of Granville. I believe it was June of 1955.
okay. Do you have any memories of, or what I should say are the first memories you have of the children's home?
Uh, Quite honestly, and I'm going to be as honest as I
That's good.
can,
That's what we want.
uh, I felt, and in the beginning and for a long period of time, like I had been sentenced to some kind of prison.
Hmm.
Um, of course, at 4 years of age, when I moved to the children's home, I I was scared, and I frightened easily, and I wanted to be, of course, with my mother.
Hmm.
But that was made impossible by the fact that the courts had placed us in the children's home, and so I don't know when it was, but it was sometime later that I decided that I'm going to be here. I may as well make the best of it. But certainly not in the beginning. I do remember there was one guy there. I don't recall his name. I think it was Bricker was his last name. But he just, some reason or other, he just frightened the daylights out of me.
Was he another child, or was he on
No,
a
no, no,
staff?
no. He was another one of the children there. And he never did anything to harm me, but I was just frightened of him. I don't know whether it was his looks, his voice, his mannerisms. I don't recall. I simply know that I simply remember that he, as I said, frightened the daylights out of
Hmm.
me.
Yeah. What did the staff seem to be like through the time you were there?
The staff they were helpful,
Hmm.
but they seemed very stern the whole time I was there. Particularly, there were two ladies who took care of the boys, and I don't recall their name. But one was a rather a small stature, and the other was rather large. And the one who was large, although she was no worse than anybody else, I don't think, but she impressed me as being extremely stern, and of course, for that reason, I minded my p's and q's around her more so
Yeah.
than anybody else.
Yeah. Did the discipline seem what? How did that seem? Harsh or fair, or how would you characterize it?
The discipline seemed harsh at times. At other times, it seemed fair. At other times, it seemed I don't care kind of attitude. Maybe that changed as I aged, and I became more accustomed to living there, and figured out the the way they wanted me to behave and act. If you're in a situation, I'm sure you're aware that where certain things are demanded of you, and you learn to live with those, it makes life easier. And that's, I think, was the situation with me and the people down there. Now, I do recall Pop and Mom Zerger. He seemed, even almost up to the end, to be extremely strict, where Mom was a little more nurse type personality. Although I must admit, in spite of his sternness, that I loved them both. I didn't resent them as much as I did the two ladies who were in charge of taking care of the boys, and some of the things I recall about the children's home. They gave us haircuts, and the lady who did the haircuts was her general job there was as head cook. But on Saturdays she would set up a little shop in one of the rooms there, and she would cut our hair, the boys and the girls. And I didn't really care for it because the haircuts always looked like she put a bowl on your head and just shaved around it. It just looked terrible. And I wasn't happy about that. And of course, when I started school, and you could tell from a distance, oh, there's a kid from the children's home, look at that haircut.
So you stood out. Did the children's home children stand out in other ways, do you think?
Yes, there was one other way that irritated me then, and quite frankly still irritates me to some extent today. We bought cattle feed in feed bags, 50-pound feed bags, and the bags were had a flower design. And as we emptied the bags, we would throw them in a pile, and they were made of flower design. And as we would empty them, we would throw them in a pile, and when we got a number of them, we would take them to the laundry and they would wash them. Then the ladies would rip them apart and make shirts for the boys. This was the younger boys. I'm talking elementary school. Make shirts for the boys and blouses for the girls. And you could always tell a child from the children's home by the blouse or shirt he was wearing, plus the fact that the shirts were, to me at least, they felt like putting on a piece of sandpaper. They were very
burlap, kind of.
It wasn't a burlap, but it was very rough to the touch. At least I found it to be so. And on top of that, the shoes we wore were what we used to call clodhoppers. They were come up above the knee and so forth. And then on top of that, the pants were. Today the kids wear them and like them. They're called carpenter's pants. But back then, that wasn't the desired pair of pants to wear. But other than that, I can't think of anything really that made us stand out from the other children at the school or wherever.
So you felt otherwise you were able to mix in with the other kids at school?
I never had any problem with that because fortunately, I guess God gave me a personality that I was able to make friends quite readily. Although I must admit, when I first went to the children's home, as I told you earlier, I was 4 years of age. And I didn't make friends with the boys and girls who were up in their teens and beyond. And by the time I left, I was just short of my 16th birthday, and I wasn't making friends with the kids anymore. But other than that, I was able to make friends quite readily and quite easily with my peers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did do you keep in touch with anybody that you became friends with from that time?
Outside
from
of the children's home?
Either way.
Not so much with the children who were in the children's home at that time, although I have seen a couple of them in the last several years. But yes, I have kept in constant contact with some of my high school classmates.
Good, good. Were you able to see your, I forget exactly, was it brothers and sisters? Was it three others who were with you?
Yeah, there was. I had when I went to the children's home, there was besides myself, there was two sisters and a brother.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the oldest sister and the other brother are passed on. The youngest sister, I speak to her occasionally by phone, but she lives down in North Carolina, so I don't see her all that often. In fact, I haven't seen her since our older sister passed away, and we both came back here for her funeral. At that time, I was living with my wife and children in California.
Okay. Did you get to see them while you were in the home very much?
Oh, yes, yes. And my younger brother especially, because we pretty much, we grew up together since he was only a year younger than me. At that time, they had two dorms for the girls and the boys, and you were separated in the separate dorms according to your age. And so when I went from, let's call it the little boys dorm to the big boys dorm, he was pretty much right behind me. So yeah, we were able to keep in contact, and then on the grounds there, yeah, I saw my sisters frequently.
Okay. How often did the boys and girls seem to mix normally?
Well, you know how it is at that age. The boys are over here, the girls are over there.
Yeah.
But there was nothing. There was no hindrance to intermingling, particularly on the playground. Except, as I said, the boys and girls wanted to be segregated from one another.
That's how it was when I was at that age. Yeah. Did they give you jobs to do?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I thought you might have something to say about that.
Yeah. Some of them I didn't mind, but there was one that just drove me up a wall, and even to think about it, it's still. One job I had was after the meals, when the girls would clean up the dining room and start washing the dishes, they would throw the leftover food into buckets, and it was my job to carry the garbage out, either to the garbage cans, which were one direction, or to the pig pen, which was another direction. And at 8-9 years of age, those were very heavy. Mm-hmm. And if I had to carry them to the pig pen, that was like a long walk. And so I tried my best to avoid it if I possibly could. But then the head cook, she would come out, and I can still hear her voice to this day, sounding almost like a screech owl. Arthur Clawson, come and get the garbage out. And I'll never forget. Also, while I had that job, there was an occasion, and I must admit at this point, I was not guilty. But Pop came into the dining room one day, and it seems that somebody had gone into the pantry and stolen a box of Jell-O powder, And he came in, and I chuckle about it now. In fact, I chuckled about it then. He said he was talking about somebody having stolen this, and he said, "I want that person to own up to it." Well, obviously nobody raised their hand. And finally he said, Well, I know who did it, and I won't mention any names, but his initials is Art Clawson. Of course, my jaw hit the table because I knew I was innocent, but I had access because I was in the kitchen to carry out the garbage. But then, of course, all the girls who were doing the dishes, they had access also. So I don't know who took it. I never tried to find out. I didn't think it was worth the effort. But I just remember with a chuckle, even to this day, won't mention his name, but his initials is Art Clawson.
Yeah. Didn't have a jury trial, I guess, in
No,
those kind of situations.
no trial by jury, no trial by my peers, just the judge bringing the gavel down.
Oh man.
I didn't suffer any repercussions from it, except the little bit of embarrassment I suffered at the time. But so it's, like I say, it was rather comical to me at the time, and remains so even to this day.
Can you remember what a typical day, if there was a typical day, might be like from when you got up in the morning till you went to bed at night?
Well, a typical day when I got a little older was we got up and dressed, brushed our teeth, and combed our hair, if only just wet our hand and run the fingers through the hair. And then we go down and we had to milk the cows. And of course we had to muck the stalls while we were there. And then we carried the milk up to what we called the milk house, which was right behind the home. And we after milking, then we had to come up and clean up a little bit more, because obviously when we're working around cattle, you're going to pick up the odors and so forth. We had to clean up a little bit more and then head off to school. In elementary, we went to Hazelwood Elementary, which is down on O'Bannon Avenue. I don't know. The building still exists, but I don't think the school is still there.
I don't think it's operating, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that was grades 1 through 6. And then 7 through 9, we went to Lincoln Junior High, which I know is tore down now. Yeah. And then from there up to the old high school on West Main Street. And I understand they're tearing down the last of that, except for the gymnasium, or there's plans to do that now. But then after school, we came home, and once again we had to change into our work clothes and head down and milk the cattle again. And one place I mentioned earlier that I thought they were a little lackadaisical, and I didn't think so at the time, but I really do now, is after dinner in the evening, there was never any push by any of them to get any of us to sit down and do our homework. And I for one, I really regret that now. Although I graduated from high school and I went on and got a BA degree in college in advertising, communications, and I wish now that they had pushed us, but they didn't. That was one point where they were kind of, well, it's up to you. If you don't want to do it, that's your problem.
Okay. Huh. What do you think inspired you to go to college afterwards?
By the time I went to college, I had already married and had 2 children. And I was in what I thought was pretty much a dead-end job. And so I went to, I got my degree. I first went to a JC, Orange Coast College in Costa Mesa, California. And I got an AA degree from there. And then I went on to Cal State Fullerton and got my BA there in communications with an emphasis in advertising. So what inspired me to do it? Simply because I felt that the job I was in was pretty much a dead end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll do it.
And with 2 children and a wife, I felt I needed to provide a little better for them than I was capable of in the job I was in.
Okay. Okay. Getting back to the children's home, um, did you work with the animals other than milking the cows and dropping the
Garbage
dinner off for the pigs?
Yeah.
Or did you have any preferences working with the animals?
I enjoyed working with the animals, quite frankly. At one time my job was to take care of the chickens, and every spring they would buy maybe 400 chicks, and of course we used them for eggs, we used them for meat, and my job was to feed them and gather the eggs, and I got pecked more than once trying to take an egg out of a nest. But that's just one of the things you have to face up to when you do something like that. But I also remember for a short period of time we had some rabbits, and because we kept them in a separate, what we called a hen house. Because I was there, I also was responsible for feeding the rabbits, and they were bred and raised also for meat. So we weren't strictly confined to pork, beef, and chicken. We had rabbit on occasion.
Okay.
And then the farmer at one time, his name was Bill Simross. And Bill was, he was really a gruff old man. At least I thought so at the time. He had a horse, personal horse of his own. And I used to have to carry hay out to feed the horse. But that was not a big deal. That was... I just had to carry it maybe 25 feet. So
was that while you were at the home, or you said you left, I guess, to work on a farm afterwards?
I did, but no, that was while I was at the home.
Oh, okay. How was it like to leave the home and then work on the farm afterwards?
Well, I thought in the beginning it was going to be freedom, so to speak. But it turned out to be, in retrospect, even worse than the children's home. Mainly because, here again in retrospect, I can see now that if we had stayed with our mother, because she only had a 7th grade education, she was unable to get decent jobs. So we would have been without food and clothing and so forth that we were provided while in the children's home. So I can see that now in retrospect. But when I went out to the farm out north of Granville, and unfortunately I can't remember the people's name, and I'm not sure I would give it even if I could.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was there for only one summer, but I was confined to the farm. I couldn't go anyplace else unless I went with them. They would leave on Sunday morning and go to church, but I didn't go with them for 2 reasons. One, they didn't invite me to go along, number one. And number two, I probably wouldn't have gone anyway because I was raised in the children's home. We went to the East Main Street Methodist Church, which is located on East Main and Cedar Street. And they were Catholic. And I had some contact with Catholics, and it wasn't good. Now, I don't know if it was because of the people I had contact with, because since then I've met a lot of Catholics who are nice people, and so I can't condemn Catholics as a whole because of this family, but they made it difficult for me to admire the Catholic family, or the Catholic religion, I should say.
Yeah. How were you able to get out of that situation?
I just left at the end of the summer.
Yeah.
I then went to live with my mother in Newark, and I finished high school while living with her, and I got after school jobs to help her out, and we made a go of it. We certainly didn't live high on the hog or anything like that, but we were able to make a go of it.
Okay. At the children's home, did they have much in the way of sports opportunities, or?
Well, we had pickup games, basketball, softball, and even on occasion we were one of the boys would get from one of their parents or from somebody a football, and so we would play football. Sometimes tackle, sometimes touch, but basically what they provided there was softball and basketball, and this was outdoor basketball, so it wasn't like the idea of it going into a gym. But we were permitted. I remember when I was going to Lincoln Junior High, we were permitted to participate in intramural sports while at school. And then when I got into high school, in my sophomore year, I did play for the we called it the reserves, or the JV, at the high school, and I got injured, and the doctors wouldn't clear me to play the last 2 years there. So, but they permitted us to participate. I'm not sure they were all that happy when I would get home at 6 o'clock at night from high school after football practice, but they never once did any of them say, "You're going to have to stop. That's it. No more."
Okay. Did they let you participate in other school activities after classes?
Not that I recall. At least I didn't personally.
I think I heard the same with others. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And one pair of brothers I talked to, and they were in there, I think, in the mid-50s and later, so they might have come on just as you were leaving.
Yeah,
they mentioned, I think the actor Andy Devine, who was in some Western movies, stopped by. Do you remember any big names, people stopping by to visit?
The only person I remember stopping by was, and I don't recall her name, unfortunately, but she at the time had a singing career. How popular she was or anything, I don't recall, but I do know that she had some records out.
Okay.
And I don't recall her name. It was basically, as I recall, it was country western. And then one of the boys who was in there when I was there was a half brother or a step brother or something, step brother I guess it was, to a big name country western star whose name doesn't come to me right now. But other than that, no, I don't remember any really big popular.
Okay. Did they have televisions for the children to watch towards the later years?
They had, as far as I know, they had 2 televisions. One was in a big room on the second floor, down toward the girls' end of the building, and they set up chairs in there, and we all, boys and girls together, sat in there and watched this little black and white, I don't know, 7-inch television or whatever.
Yeah.
But and the other, as far as I know, there was only one other, and that was in Mom and Pop's quarters.
Yeah.
So those are the only ones I recall.
Yeah.
There may have been others that I don't recall at this point.
Okay. Did you get to go out to movies or field trips anywhere very often?
While we were there, we were permitted to have visitors, parents, whoever, come in on Saturdays between 2 and 4 p.m. That was the only time we got to see our mother or our father, and we only saw him maybe twice. When I say we, I'm talking about me and my siblings. And then we were permitted to go out and spend the day with them Thanksgiving and again on Easter Sunday. But other than that, no, we were not permitted to go out. And as far as going to a movie on our own, you know, when you're in the children's home, you don't have a job, how can you go to a movie?
Yeah, you need money.
It costs, even if it's only 10 cents for a Saturday matinee.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Huh. Okay. Now, I've heard different things. This is a sensitive issue about the children's home, and you mentioned about the discipline being sometimes strict, sometimes more lax, and other people have pretty much confirmed similar things to what you said. Did you ever hear any stories of any sort of abuse going on? I haven't heard that myself from a lot of the period, say 40s, 50s, but then later on I heard some stories of that, and also way back in the 1800s, maybe some of the early years. But did you ever hear anything about that kind of thing going on?
My personal recollection of the time that I was in there was that there was, we were disciplined. And sometimes that discipline took the form of a belt across the rear end or a paddle or something like that. But I never looked on it as abuse.
Right.
But that's from my own personal point of view. Other people may have thought it was abuse.
The people who mentioned abuse, they said their experiences, it went well beyond that. So yeah, that's and what you're talking about fits in with what other people from the same period have said.
Yeah. There was no what I would call abuse.
Okay.
Just punishment for misbehavior, for correction, so forth. And certainly there was absolutely, that I can recall, there was absolutely no sexual abuse or anything like that.
Yeah, good. Okay. Anything else positive or negative or indifferent you want to add about the home?
I began by saying that when I first went in, it felt to me like being sentenced to a some kind of prison or reformatory or whatever you want to call it. And I felt somewhat liberated when I was sent to that farm out north of Granville. But I can see in retrospect, as I said earlier, I was perhaps a lot better off. No, not perhaps. I was a lot better off in there than I would have been with my mother because of her lack of education.
Okay.
Not because of love. My mother loved us up until the day she died. And the feeling was reciprocated, of course. But No, I can think of a lot of things that happened then that are personal to me that probably couldn't be confirmed by anybody else. So I'll not go into those.
That's fine. Sure. I often ask people this: if a children's home today could be run in appropriate ways, do you think, just your opinion, do you think it would be worthwhile to try to have institutions like that again, or do you think it's better overall to go more the foster parent route like today?
I don't know. I've never been involved in the foster parent program,
Mm-hmm.
either as a child or as an adult. But my experience with the children's home tells me that something like that, depending on the individual, of course,
Mm-hmm.
something like that would not be a bad situation.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's another thing that many other former residents have said too. That,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So Mom and Pop were, as I said, he especially was extremely strict.
Mhm.
She was very loving, almost to the point of, as I said, nursing.
Hmm.
But I truly believe that they were doing what they felt was best.
Hmm.
Now, I remember when I first went down there that my younger brother and younger sister, because of their ages, my brother was 3, my sister was 2, so they were put in what we called the nursery.
Mm.
These were for younger children who were obviously below 4 years of age, because I was 4 and I was not put in there. And they did away with that after a short period of time. And I was kind of sad to see that happen, because it gave the girls the opportunity to, for lack of a better term, babysit.
Yeah.
Which when they left would have given them a foot up as far as getting babysitting jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But they did away with it. Something just came to mind.
Okay.
When I was in the 5th grade, I believe it was, there were 3 of the boys came down with scarlet fever. One boy, I don't recall his name. I can see him, but I can't recall his name. He died from it. Another boy named Jim Shaw, who I understand has since passed away. Jim was sick with it for not a real long period of time, but another, Earl Lohr, who I believe lives over in Grove City.
Yeah, I've talked to him.
You have?
Yeah.
He was laid up for nearly a whole school year.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a consequence, he was held back in the 5th grade. He and I were the same age, and we started school together, but he was held back in the 5th grade, so obviously I graduated a year before he did. If indeed he graduated, and I think he did.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think so.
But that was probably one of the saddest episodes while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there was one year, it seemed like we just could not get out of the children's home. We were quarantined for something, and just as they were about to lift the quarantine, we had a terrible, terrible snowstorm. And I think it was months we were quarantined for. And we had a terrible snowstorm, so we were kept in because of that. And then about the time they got the place cleared off so that we could go back to school, we were quarantined once again. So we were quarantined for probably between the two quarantines and the snow. We were in the home for probably 2 months, maybe. And the only outside contact we had was some adults who were taking their health into their own hands came in to work, as ministers, teaching us the gospel and so forth.
Okay.
And I appreciated that. Not that I've been a strong Christian all my life, although I am now, but I've always, in the back of my mind, I've always felt that was the way you needed to live your life, and I was pleased that they came down, and then we had a group. What was it called? A group of women that used to come down every other Sunday or something like that, called the LTL or something like that,
Okay.
Ladies Temperance League, or
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
or WCTU.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Women's Christian Temperance Union. Maybe?
yeah, that may have been it.
Okay.
Anyway, they came down and they used to preach to us the idea of staying away from liquor, and I don't know that ever stuck with me, though I've never been a big drinker. But I think that's due in part to the fact that my father, although I didn't know him well, was two things he liked real well, was the bottle and the broads. And so I decided early on that I was not going to follow that path.
Yeah. Good. It's interesting what children pick up on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes. When you think they're not looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Anything else you want to add? If not, that's fine. Or if so, that's fine too.
I don't recall anything else at this point
That's
in time.
fine. We already have a lot of thoughtful comments by you, which I appreciate. So yeah, if you can't recall anything else, that's fine.
Well, by the time you get to your car, I'll probably remember 3 or 4 more things.
I'm the same way.
But at this point in time, no, I can't think of anything else.
Okay.
I do remember, the adults who were there, starting with Mom and Pop, and then the ladies who took care of us. It seems to me one of the ladies' name, I told you one of them was rather small in stature. I think her name was Wiley.
Okay. I've heard that name.
Yeah, and I think the head cook's name was Wiley also, or
Okay.
Willie.
Okay.
I know their names were very similar. They were not related. And then continuing on to Mr. and Mrs. Carter. Mr. Carter was the head, for lack of a better term, janitor.
Okay.
He took care of everything that had to do with the janitorial work there. And then his wife, Mrs. Carter, was she was the head laundress, I guess you might say. She did the laundry, and of course there was the farmers. And I don't have any bad recollection of any of them except for the one farmer who owned the horse, who I thought at times was very, very mean to the horse. And then, of course, Mr. Carter, you walk up to him and he used to step on your toe and give you a shove. So you would be falling back, but you couldn't go all the way because he was standing on your toe. Not to the point of hurting you.
Right. Okay.
But that was one of the things he enjoyed doing, and I remember now with a chuckle, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, one time also that reminds me for maybe one winter, perhaps maybe two. One of my jobs was to help him by feeding the coal furnaces,
Okay.
throwing coal into the. We had a big hopper that was what do you call it? Fed by a screw
Like
type thing. We had to keep that hopper full, and then it fed it automatically into the furnace, and from there we got our heat and our hot water. And then another job that I had, thank goodness I'm remembering it, that I didn't really care a whole lot for, it was my responsibility. As you know, there were three stories there. There was the ground level, then the second floor, and the third floor. And they had a hallway that ran the distance of the home. And my job was to sweep the hallways and then sweep the steps from the third floor down to the down to the second, down to the first. And I didn't really care for that a whole lot either, because it cut into my playtime. Not that it was hard or anything like that, but you know, while everybody else was out playing softball, I was in there sweeping the floors.
You got some chance to go out and play softball.
Oh yes, oh yes,
Yeah.
oh yes, absolutely.
Okay, good.
No, I wasn't confined to that 24/7.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, that's great. If unless you can think of anything else, we really appreciate, like you say, a lot of thoughtful comments you gave us and accounts. So
Yeah.
that's
The last thing I would like to say is that, as I said, I don't keep in contact with a lot of the boys and girls who were down there when I was there, because I don't know where they've gone. Most of them are probably out of state. Some of them are probably passed away. But I was able to form a couple of very close relationships, friendships, and I'll forever remember those guys. One was a kid named Vernon Hickman.
I've talked to him. Yeah.
Oh, he's still living?
He's living in Newark. I can get you his contact information if you'd like. Yeah.
I know he was. The last I talked to him, he was treating for cancer.
Okay. He didn't mention that, but
yeah, he had been having to run over to Dayton, a VA hospital, and treat for cancer, and I didn't know whether he was still living. Is he still living on down by the football stadium?
Yeah, right across from it. You can almost watch the football games from
Yeah.
his front porch. Yeah.
Okay, then I know where he lives.
Yeah, on Western, I think.
Western, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
But he was one of my best friends while I was
okay.
down there. And then there was the Lores, Earl and Jim Lore. And then they had an older sister whose name I don't recall. Jim Shaw, Paul Huntinger. So many more whose names don't come to me now. That I remember quite well, and with some warmth of heart.
Yeah, good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll sign off now.
Okay.